All right. So we are in Matthew chapter 24 today. So when we read, we're going to read actually that a little bit into 23 because you got to ramp in and it ramp into 24. So 24 is the apocalypse. Like that's kind of what it is, and it's all this scary stuff, like Revelation and those. So what you have to do whenever you read this, what ends up happening, I think a lot of times is we forget where all these words are located, and we start reading them independent to everything else that we've read before it. So you have to remember, we have, how long have we been doing this Bible study now? Since, was it March when we started this? I can't remember. Somewhere around there. We have been going that long to get to this point now. And so let's not do a disservice to everything we read before and forget that as we go into 24. Also, going on from 24 into 25 and 26, it's important to remember what is coming afterwards. Right after this is Jesus dying on the cross. A lot of this apocalypse stuff has to do with Jesus dying on the cross, but it also has a lot to do with all. Remember, we just read all these woe to you, you blind guides, and the woe to you, you Pharisees. Like it's all this stuff, and there's a lot of kind of semi-quoting of things like Daniel. And when we did the Daniel sermon series back, when did we do that? 2019. That's where I really came away with the feeling of, well, the reason why the Babylonian captivity happened is that God basically says, like, well, if you guys want to be Babylon so bad, then you can be Babylon, and they're allowed to be taken over. And like, that's one of my favorite phrases is, careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Like that's, and it isn't what they expected it to be. So what we have to watch out for is a thing that the Gospels and Matthew that we're seeing is that it's going against power seeking. Like that's an overarching goal of this gospel plus Mark and all those things. That's an overarching goal of those things, and it all ends up power being evaporated away on the cross. I think that's kind of what's going on there. And so as we're reading this, if we find ourselves wanting to do readings that increase someone's power or decrease it, it's probably not right. So like that's, and when I see most people dealing with this stuff of the apocalypse, it's usually what I see, like the people wanting to increase their power or decide who's going to be judged or something like that. So let's read through this. I want to begin. Where should we begin here? I was thinking about beginning with chapter 23, verse 35. Just kind of, it's the end of that section about the woe to you, all you scribes and Pharisees, and then it goes into Jesus lamenting over Jerusalem, and I think that we can't forget about Jesus lamenting over Jerusalem as we get into 24. I don't know. We've been doing a chapter or two or something like that. We've been clipping along. I've been wondering when we were going to not get through a chapter in a week. This might be the start of that, because you get in like this chapter's long. It's thick. There's a lot going on. So the goal is not to get through the chapter. The goal is to get through the material. So like that. So we'll read the whole chapter, but if we don't get through all of it, that is, and so like that's, but if we get through 2 chapters, that's fine. Like, so that's, I don't think that'd be how it is. So, all right.
That on you may come all the righteous blood shed on the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Assuredly, I say to you, all these things will come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. For I say to you, you shall see me no more till you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Don't need all the music.
Then Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came up to show him the buildings of the temple.
Do you not see all these things? Assuredly I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down.
Now as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately.
Tell us, when will these things be?
And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place,
Whoever reads, let him understand.
then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house, and let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. Therefore, if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For wherever the carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near, at the doors. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Then 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his master made ruler over his household to give them food in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his master, when he comes, will find so doing. Assuredly, I say to you that he will make him ruler over all his goods. But if that evil servant says in his heart, my master is delaying his coming, and begins to beat his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunkards, the master of that servant will come on a day when he is not looking for him, and at an hour that he is not aware of, and will cut him in two and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Hey,
White sun is loud as it was. Hi, Pam. Good to see you. Okay. So, kind of going in, let's kind of try to go in order a little bit here, but what stood out to you? What stood out? This is almost as uplifting and stretching. Yeah. Like we're getting close to the cross. We're getting close to the arrest and all that stuff. And that's why all this is getting said and all that. So so it's uplifting. Like this is what you read to you. Like we're pretty good at that. Yeah, what that time story. Yeah. Nice bedtime story. Read it in the King James, and I'm not where you don't know what's going on. Like that. That's it. So what else stood out? What else stood out? Nothing. Everyone's scared because
A lot of scriptures mentioned from other books.
there are.
In that chapter, a lot.
There are. So yeah, Psalm, there's Hosea, like this, like Daniel, I like all that, and those are all kind of apocalyptic, like kind of apocalyptic stuff. So what? So there's lots of stuff, and we'll look at some of those, see what's going on. So what else stood out? Say it again.
Good morning.
Big warning. Yeah, the warning. And I think near the end of this chapter, he tells you who that warning is for. He tells you who that warning is for. So we'll definitely get that. So you get the big warning and all of that. Yeah, like that's. And it also at the beginning of the chapter was at verse 15. I checked to see if it was in the NIV too, and it was. it's end of verse 15 says, "Whoever reads, let him understand." Like it's like the narrator is telling you, like, "Hey, pay attention to this. Pay attention to this." So, okay, so let's just kind of walk through this. As we had just finished talking about how terrible the Pharisees are. Woe to you. Yeah. Lots of number. All the woes there, right? Like it's all the woes. Yeah, you brood of vipers, all those things. And we started reading, it's like, you who murdered between the temple and the altar. Like that. You who murdered, here, if we said that at Grace, you who murdered someone in between the cross and the altar up there. Well, it's like that's which is interesting. What do you think he's saying? What is he? What is that saying to you? Before I said bye.
The Pharisees are leading the people astray, and they're following because they're lost. They don't know what else to do.
Yeah, and they're doing it in full view. Like, it's cloaked in religiousness. It's in full view of God. Like that's in front of it. It's almost like that. The way I read it, and I could be wrong about this, but when you talk to some people, or I get this conversation a lot. I don't know if you guys do, but someone's like, "Man, if I showed up in church, the readers are like, yeah, no, I don't mind that." I think it's coming from that kind of saying, that same kind of place. It's like, oh, look what you're doing, like right in the midst of all of that. So we have all these like you guys you're murdering, right, all this stuff, and then he's like, but oh Jerusalem, verse 37 of 23. The one who kills the prophets and those that are sent to her. Like how often I wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. Like that whole, like it's a very mothering statement. Like you're not willing, protectionist statement, all that stuff. See your house is left ye desolate. Like that's interesting phrase. For I say to you, you shall see me no more till you say, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. What do you think's going on there? See, your house is left you desolate, the temple, and blessed is he that the Lord. What do you mean?
Is he saying that God has left the temple?
I usually don't like such things that are that. Let's see.
Well, the temple.
I don't know if he's saying God has left the temple.
The temple's no longer pure enough for God to dwell there.
So I think I don't think he's saying it like that. Like I don't know. Like, well, what do you guys think? What do you guys? I don't have a good answer for this. Like, what do you guys? We go back to that. Yes. Who wants to fight Lee? No. Yeah. We wanted to go to Lowe's.
The temple is destroyed.
Well, it's about to be, and that's what I wanted to. These two are meant to be read together. Already predicted that the temple is going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And let me say your house is desolate. Could mean your own little house that you live in, or it could mean your world is desolate.
Let me.
Yeah. No. So like that's. See, your house must desolate. What does it say in the other translations? Like your house is left you desolate. You know what it says? I'm gonna use the fun translation. What is that? Which are we on? 38? 23, 38. Oh, we're still yeah. Sorry, it's at the very end.
Yeah. Your house is left you desolate. And
okay, so
what's the message?
Your house, not God's house.
So I call this the fun translation. It's a translation by a guy named Scott Knight. And he says, look, your house is released you as wilderness. Your house is released to you as wilderness. So he's like, for I say this to you, you will never see me from now until you say, blessed is the one who is make on the Lord. So that's a weird translation. Whenever there's a weird translation, let's look it up. We go with verse Bible. Let's see here. Enter with here. Then 23, 38.
So the gospel message says, now you're so desolate, nothing but a ghost town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't build in the wilderness.
Yeah. Here, let's look at the Greek.
Haste, for this fragrant oil might have been sold for much and given to the poor.
Now I can get back to my. How did it start? I couldn't get back to my tab.
There's somebody who's sport. It goes in now 50 feet of wire to go through it again.
They can't do it. All right, here we go. We're looking at. Now we're. I don't know, maybe. Okay, so it's basically, behold, is left to you the house of you desolate. All right, that's just word for desolate. Let's see, Matthew 14, desolate. So that's Irish Mark. With this distance, so it's like a decade. You don't use that. Okay, that's good. All right.
The ELCA Bible kind of agrees with the elder there.
Oh no.
As Jesus here speaks of the temple, but as your house, God's house.
Mm-hmm.
This reflects the widespread tradition that before the Babylonians destroyed the temple, God had left the temple and the city. Exodus 9:3. Josephus, the first century Jewish historian, reports signs that God left the temple before the Romans destroyed it in 70. The temple, the place of God's life-living presence, becomes a place of desolation and death.
Okay, so that actually leads us right into that next section, and at the beginning of 24, really well. And how I'm going to, what Ed just read, that's like getting us in there, is the question we have to ask ourselves. Yeah, the question that we have to ask ourselves is the chapter 24, has this stuff happened? That's a question that we never ask ourselves. We never ask ourselves, has this stuff happened yet? What stuff? Define stuff. 24. Just all pretty in this solution?
I would say no.
So let's like it's what Ed just read just a second ago. So let me read. Let me read 24, chapter 24, 1 verse 2. That got everyone going. This is why Revelation's going to be crazy. All right, like that. Yeah. All right. So then Jesus went out and departed from the temple. And his disciples came up to show him the buildings of the temple, and Jesus said to them. So they're basically saying, like, look at how amazing this, like look how big and important, all that stuff. And he goes, do you not see all these things? Now he's talking about, don't you see what's happening? Like, don't you see what's happening? Like, assuredly, I say to you, no, not one stone shall be left on here to another that shall not be thrown down. Has that happened? No. Yes. I've had it. That's 62 years after this.
Yes.
But it hasn't happened here. No, that's what I'm talking about. I said, what happened now? Now, I think today's, that's hook it. Yes. Good. Yeah. And also the other, I didn't realize that was misunderstanding. Okay, that makes sense. Stillness. That selection. So it's we're not. No, we're not. We live in the resurrection. So this is what, like, I used to think this is, like, I didn't really know what Jesus was saying here. Like, looking at it through my deflected mind now, I think I'm beginning to understand what Jesus means here. I think he's saying, look at what is happening all around you. All you guys are doing is a call into revolution constantly. Like, you want freedom for your oppressors. You want Judas Maccabeus, and I constantly preach about it and Jesus is like, don't you see all these things? Like, you just talked about how the Pharisees are basically using God's love and God's actions to cause hurts and pains and to devour people's homes and all this stuff. And you're just constantly going after this. And all of this is going to crescendo in the call for Barabbas, which in his name in Greek, it is Bar Jesus, Jesus. Like, his name is Jesus. And in the way that these gospels are written is that they give them a choice. You have the choice of choosing which Jesus do you want. Do you want the Jesus that in 12:14, in chapter 7, verse 14 or whatever it is, that says that all the law and the prophets are summarized by your neighbor as yourself? Or do you want the one of political revolution and power? Like, and that's why I say, has this stuff happened yet today? And I think in the classic theologizing way, and it's the phrase that everyone hates that loves concrete answers, it's simply this: it's now, not yet. Like that, no. It's now, not yet. Now, not yet. Right? You do it. It's a theological term. You read books about. Okay. Now, not yet. Like, it's that same dichotomy of being saints. Like that we are still sinners, but we are also saints because of the resurrection of Jesus. Like, there's what I come to realize is that Jesus isn't the God of all these concrete answers. Like, I need my answers to all of these things. That God is a God of tension. And everything is always held in tension. We are saying, you get him a headache? Get ready. Get ready. We haven't even got into this yet. It's point eight. Like, at least like there's this tension. But it's Jesus, I think, right here is masterful. And he's basically saying, don't you see what you guys are doing? He goes, Rome isn't going to take your, use that word or that word or that word, that word, your trash too much longer. He's not going to take like your constant, like fear mongering of the people and your constant, like all these things. Like, they're not going to take it. And what we find 62 years later, Rome finally can't handle it. And they completely destroy it. And that's where the wailing wall is.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's, and trying to decide how controversial I want to be.
Well,
all right. Now that I've decided to be controversial, I have to make sure it's correct. As correctly as I can be.
Killing it.
There's a lot of talk over the last 120 years, 150 years, of like the raising up of like that nation state of Israel that fundamentally does not understand this. It's that all of that, like Israel's fine and all those things. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But there is a Zionist strain that fundamentally misunderstands what Jesus is saying. And it's and so we're creating foundations like that. That's that Jesus says. He says multiple times, "You have no faith, you can throw that mountain into the sea." Talking about the temple. You know, here we're talking about the desolation. And if Lee's correct, I'm a little uncomfortable in what Lee said, but like ELCA setting ups are more in line with Lee, and I imagine most of the setting ups are. Like there's that whole idea of like wilderness and desolation, thing of going on there, and that all of this stuff is being judged. But what we're going to see is that God ends up basically flipping the temple, and like suddenly there's a new temple that comes in not too far from here. That we have this temple that's it's gonna be gone in 62 years or 72 years, whatever it is. 72? 70, yeah. So something like that. That's in 70 years. This temple is gonna be gone. But we also see the destruction of Jesus, which is the temple of God. So but you also see the resurrection of Jesus. And then in John, you see Jesus then breathing on the disciples. And in Luke, you have Acts, where on Pentecost, where the Spirit fills the temple, which is us, right? That is, and so when you read Romans 9, 10, 11, and 12, those chapters are devoted to trying to figure out like how Israel still remains God's people. And basically what Paul basically says is that you don't forget what you have. And so God won't forget his own. Like that's basically what Paul says. The way he puts it in is like, we are merely those that are grafted in. Like we're grafted into a branch. He goes, you can't just throw away the branch. And so stuff like that's going on there. But we have to stare at what Jesus is saying. And this is why I talk about power seeking all the time. I think that's what Jesus is talking about. Because you guys want all this stuff so bad, and you're going to lose it all. You're going to lose it all because that's what you're certain. If you're not certain, they're going to. But that's the world they know. I mean, they don't have another than reference point, but other than just word. Yeah, but they're interpreting his word based on prior knowledge, prior hearings, prior history. So you make it sound like they're done, but I don't think they have amongst what we have to look back at. I mean, they make it sound like they're dumb, but yeah, like that's they're going for what has happened in the past. David came and cleaned house. What do you mean by David came and left house? I said maybe like when he came in, like yeah. I thought he was there. Well, yeah, he said, but I'm not saying funny. But yeah. Israelites run them together. And I think they're looking for someone to push Babylonians away and to bring these people back, rid of those other, bring us together. In this case, the Romans, and they're saying, I think, for this being, yeah. I guess they have no paradigm. It's, I think the paradigm is there. They're just unwilling to look at it. Like, because I think the prophets, you have this language of you killed the prophets in between the temple and, that's why he keeps referencing back to the prophets. Yeah. So they know where to go to see. Because the prophets were like, I don't care anything about your stuff. I don't care like all about that. Like Daniel is huge on this because you guys keep seeking after all this. All of these, I got to remember, it's been a while since I've been there. That's running serious. You guys keep speaking after all of this power. Like one of my favorite examples of Daniel was Nebuchadnezzar, who was this huge, king in Babylon. It ends up becoming like a beast of the field. And the reason why he becomes a beast in the field in the Old Testament, there he's like eating grass, and he's got his hairs all over him. And this is the leader of Babylon. And the reason why he's doing that is it's just an outward expression of his true inner nature. Is that he's treating people like trash. He's treating people like a beast. Like, and all that stuff. And man, when I remember sitting down with Mark talking about that Daniel sermon series, and I went, oh, like, maybe I should stop treating people as child. You know,
We're glad that you did.
yeah, like that. Well, who said a bit? But okay, so
Yeah, no, I kind of read that less the temple as you messed up the temple. So I'm going out now with the people rather than in a building.
yeah. No, I think that was the entire intention of it. Like that. And
People aren't there anymore. They're not being treated like people.
yeah. And so like when he cleansed it, he like it was because they had made the and it made it into a den of thieves. That the temple was that ground where they're doing all the selling was meant to be a place for the Gentiles who had gotten his oil. And what I think is interesting, I don't remember where it was, but in here, it's at the end, it's verse 31. You don't have to go there, but it says the four winds from one to another, from heaven to earth, like that Gentile court, it is where the four winds are the four corners of the earth are meant to come together. Like that's, and so you're seeing all this stuff kind of come in there. So as we continue to go through here, remember, like we're talking about, like, has this happened yet in our timeline? I love how you guys immediately went to Jesus. But good job. Like that was like you did such a good job. I missed it. Not like that. But yeah, like Jesus timeline here and versus ours, because there is some apocalyptic stuff for us too, and I think it's both and idea. So let's continue on going through here. Let's see here. So we get through like verse 2. Talking about the destruction, everything will be thrown out. Now they sat on the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came in bridal passage. What do you mean by all this? Like here, I don't like what you're talking about here. So then verse 4, take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And you will hear of wars, rumors of wars. You will see all these things that are trouble. Nation will rise against nation, famine will all this stuff. Like this is key stuff for us, because he's talking about what we end up calling a revelation. And a lot of times we make too much of it, is the Antichrist. He's talking about Antichrist. In Antichrist, it is anyone that has power that is opposed to the kingdom of God. Right? Like that's who it is. So I would say anyone that's like standing above us trying to use the kingdom of God to amass power. Like that. Yeah.
Isn't this going way back to Israel wanted a king?
Yeah, I think
Because when you have a king, you start to build a kingdom.
yeah.
They didn't want God's kingdom. They wanted a king like everybody else. And that's what we keep doing. We keep having kings who are going to make it better. And of course, they can't. They can only mess it up.
And I think that's the whole thing. That's like the slide from like in Genesis all the way through. And that's why they become part of Babylon. They want the power and prestige of Babylon. but it's yeah, and they got it. They got it. like that. Sort of kind of what's like is where they want. Yeah, like and so
Well, don't you think that brings it up to the present day? Look at the countries that doing away with Christianity. They want you to worship the state, and they almost put in the state. They almost have the same things for the kids to learn, but to love the state. And I thought,
and I think
our countries like that.
well, and that's and I think like there's a lot of places that are like that, and I think there's a lot of that happens here. It does happen here a lot. Like that's I will contend. Like I've been angry at a lot of politicians over the years. I remember when I was in Arkansas, they had because there's a legacy Southern state and a Democratic governor, and he I think Asa Hutchinson was and so and he was not doing well in the polls, so he got out and he was sitting in a chair in front of a fireplace and he had a Bible on his knee and he's like, I have been like the Bible has been one of my foundational things. I was like that's but so here's the reason why there's so many people coming my name, but you look at what they do and what they want, they are antichrist. And we laud them like, oh, they're wonderful. Right? We even say some are Christ-like, they are anti. Yeah. Well, it's part of it. It's part of it. A lot, and that's what I said was this is why Revelation's so much fun because everyone comes in. I'm using all these terms. Everyone has loaded, right? And so Antichrist isn't necessarily the devil. It's this thing that's juxtaposed to the gospel, the good news of the kingdom of God. That God came to die and then raise us all out of the pit, right? And so typically Antichrists out there, they want us to die for them. They want us to go into the pit to raise them up. And so that's like the opposite. So you see and that's you're saying that there is more than class action. Yeah. I think it's a construct. I agree with you, but sometimes people think of it as a person. Yeah, it's singular one. I think it's an construct. And I think someone could go move in and out. Like let's say I'm getting too big for my britches. I mean, you realize and that's and like because that's all it's all easy, it's all easy and start doing things which a few years ago I would have fundamentally disagreed with, but all of a sudden something like it clicks. It's easy for us all, like that's, and especially someone that's a front lot and all of that. It's easy to start thinking that your stuff doesn't stay. Like you and I talked about that a lot like a year ago. Like that's and so that's that's and I think that's why this is so important and why I think when he's talking about woe to the Pharisees and all of that, like it's interesting that he talks about the destruction of the temple right with he's wanting to cover them. Like it's not like I think we all think it's just blackness, but Jesus has this line of compassion all the way through it, which is interesting. We made it just a few verses. Cool. So, but let's do verse 9. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations in my name's sake. So like. Because these people that are antichrist, these people that have come in my name, but they are not me, that's antichrist. They promise you all these good things, but no, like they'll just bring you into trouble. And then many will be offended and betray one another and will hate one another. And many false prophets will raise up and deceive them. Like you can see this whole system that's being created. He's like, don't you see what's happening? The temple's about to be destroyed. All these people are as angels of light, but they're deceiving. It's all the same language that we see from all this. So they're coming as angels of light, but they're just deceiving. But he keeps saying, he's like, you're going to be able to see the flames. That you're going to see like all these like people will hate one another. You know, they're not bringing people together. Like people hate each other, like all that stuff. And that's in, and this is why I call it the now, not yet. Because you see it happening back then, and you see it happening. You can read the books from 400 years ago. You know, you can turn on the news, and you can watch it today. You know, like this stuff still exists, and Jesus, like, let's see, verse 12, and because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. That he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and the end will come. All right. What is he talking about there? Because he just talked about a ton of darkness there, and all of a sudden there's like a little bright. Okay. What's he talking about? The resurrection. Yeah. Resurrection. What else? What's that from? What else?
It'll all work out in the end. He's telling you. Hang in there.
The resurrection glory stuff.
Hang in there. It will. I got this. This again goes back to we don't need a king. Trust God. I got this.
Yeah, like that's, and which has been the same beat throughout all of Scripture. Like that's like it's that same beat. But to go into what Ed just said, Ed got there way too fast. Like that's why it took all the time. Yeah. But like here's what we call the theology of the cross. You know, like where you have all of this crap, all of this trash, right? And yet he's like, and yet the gospel is shining through all the trash. You know, like it is the cross and the resurrection. Like you see it, all this, there's like all these wars, pestilence, all these antichrists, like all this stuff. Like that is the cross. And then it's like, but the gospel of the kingdom. And then what was the gospel of the kingdom? Blessed are you merciful, love your neighbor as yourself. Resurrection. You know, that Easter glory. Like he goes, it's coming. He just out there 2 times. For me. I wanted more drama. He cut to the chase. But yeah, that's a good guy. But that is, yeah, no, you say something.
Then in verse 30, right?
Yeah.
As he's talking about the future there, because like you said, 29 is kind of reminiscent of what the resurrection is.
Okay. Yeah, we were in 13, but it comes, we're in verse 13.
Okay.
But yeah, it's remember how Hebrew thought works, that it works in circles, you know, as it moves forward. It's not linear. And I have a feeling you saw another one of those circles. So let's like that's I think you're seeing that there, like Pam. I think that's good. I think it's good. So let's see if we get there real quick before we're done. So you have the gospel of the kingdom. This is verse 14. The gospel of the kingdom will be preached to all the world as a witness to all the nations, and the end will come. Like so, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, this is everything we've been talking about. What is the abomination that causes desolation? Like it's that anti-kingdom of God stuff. You know, it is that antichrist. Like, and where is he standing? Like, well, no, it's not the antichrist. The abomination goes. Hold on. I'm getting confused. Let's look it up. So am I. Let's look it up. Yeah, let's look it up. So Where is that in Daniel?
Daniel,
Let me look at my thing. I wonder, because it was confusing.
9:27. Daniel 9:27. When I references Revelation, no, there's that.
Yeah. Revelation is so much on Daniel.
Peace. Yeah.
Jesus and second us.
And Daniel 7, 9. This is Daniel 27.
Daniel 9:27.
You have a Daniel some here.
Yeah, I have a Daniel too.
Well, it's right in there somewhere.
Daniel 9:7, 13 to 27.
Revelation. Thank you.
Daniel 12:1.
How dare they quote Daniel? Fine. Good. And it's
Old
been,
Testament.
it's been written. It's been on the.
It's there before Zechariah. Right after Ezekiel. That's week 4. And he can go back.
Oh my gosh! Why? Thanks.
That's one.
Which are right.
And Daniel's having the visions there according to Ezekiel. I had to reach out. It would come. That doesn't make it.
Daniel 9:27. So Daniel's prayer, Gene memorized. I got to remember Daniel now. And I remember what he was scrapping by this. So 27, full gear commissioner. You know, planet company, mini, 1-7, in the middle of 7, you put him into the sacrifice offering. And at the temple, he will set up abomination, that's resolution. Again, that is decreed, is poured out. And also, okay, so the study notes in this Bible of Daniel 7 say it's unclear exactly what Daniel meant by the Spirit's abomination because of declaration. It could also be a wordplay on a Aramaic title, Lord of Heaven, which is used to refer to Zeus. In fact, the Greek ruler Antiochus Epiphanes says Albany is God. So that okay, all right, get up. That's what I was thinking. So
No. Daniel 7, that's pretty.
I was talking about the youth. I was here. I just didn't realize I was here. That could be that abomination that causes desolation. And that could be Jesus referencing the time of the Maccabees when they were worshiping Zeus in the temple. Is what that could be. And then it could happen.
I thought you were referencing future.
Yeah. So like that's just like it could be Jesus like talking about something that people knew. You know, this is like when you see the abomination of desolation, which Daniel said a certain way, and then in modern times for Jesus and contemporary times for Jesus, they understood that Zeus worship in the temple in the time of the Maccabees was they were kind of considering the similar wording, the abomination that causes desolation. And remember, this is all now that I get like let's take it like and he like whoever reads, let him understand. So then verse 16, they let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on housetop not be down to take anything out of the house. He starts talking about all these people. Woe to you who are pregnant in those days. And I ask, in our time and day right now, has this happened? I think this is one of them that, like, it can be a now, not yet. But I think there is a time where this has happened. This is, again, the destruction of Jerusalem. And like that's when they came in and just utterly, when Rome came in and just utterly destroyed the area. To the point where 2,000 years later, it's still destroyed. You know, like that's craziness. That's the case. And so it's they all of this has just come onto it. Things like the worry like that. So the question is, and this is the question that I always do. Is Jesus a prophet? Did he actually see these things like happening? Or is he a prophet and that he can just see what is most likely going to happen? And I think and here's what I mean by that. It's like if you guys keep this up, this is what's going to happen. You know, you keep seeking after this stuff. You want all this, like this power and glory for yourself. And so this will happen. Yeah. Versus this is going to happen. Ready? I like that one a little better because I think it still makes these words incredibly useful. Like that. That's, and I also think Jesus could probably see what was going on too, but it's, I don't think these words are just meant for us to read like this. That we can definitely see what it is. And all of this was, woe to you Pharisees for doing all these things. Woe to you all this, and you destroyed the things you guys love. Because the reason why the Pharisees are doing everything that they're doing is love of the temple, love of Judaism, love of God himself. Others are using it for their own advantage. That's good news. And that's good news. Like praise God for everyone here. Right? I think that's good evidence. And so hold on. Like let's let it look like we can't like okay, but remember what we read a little bit ago. We'll get to Tim's verse next week or 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. No cloud. Yes. There's no BS next week. I have a BA in like I'm a king at the house. Yeah, like that. And so, but remember, like amidst all of this trash, like the gospel of the kingdom will complete all the world but small nation. Like that is also how Revelation is written. That in the midst of all the trash, like remember, like the trash is the cross. And all that stuff. God goes willingly to the cross to raise us up out of it. And that's good. That's good. You guys need to remember verse 23 is where we kind of stop. Then in 2 weeks we'll kill you, but in the world. Yeah, so let her. Yeah, we're gonna go back in. Like that. I said, we we'll listen to this. All right, so if all watching on YouTube and thanks for joining us.